Wow. That is my reaction to this weekend's games that happened. So, hello everybody. This is Bailey Leasure, and this is the Leisure Sports Podcast. This is my officially this is a podcast, as I'm going to be talking about others than football. Um, but I'm going to start off the podcast talking about the recapping the divisional round. First game to talk about the Falcons versus the Eagles. I expected this game to be somewhat close, but you know, I didn't. I picked the Falcons mainly because I liked the quarterbacks. I just liked Matt Ryan over Nick Foles, and Matt Ryan struggled in this game. I mean, the only way they were able to score points was off turnovers. I think both their field goal and their touchdown were off turnovers. And once the Eagles stopped turning the ball over, Nick Foles managed the game well. They were able to, use a little bit more of the runs. They made big plays. That field goal at the end of the half was huge. The one that almost got intercepted going off the one Falcons player's knees, and Torrey Smith caught it. If Foles made enough plays and they rode their defense, and Philadelphia, there was a little bit of concern over the last couple of games prior to entering the playoffs about their defense, and they stepped it up. Matt Ryan struggled. They had no running game. The Falcons were able to run the ball a little bit last week against the Rams, but they just could not do that. And the Falcons, what happened? They had a chance to win the game, and there was some questionable play calling. They threw it on the first two times. They had two timeouts. I thought they threw it on like first and goal at the 9. They threw it twice, and then they were forced to throw it. They got down to the 2-yard line. It was fourth and goal, and then Matt Ryan threw it up to Julio Jones. Didn't make the catch. Could have even if had he caught it, it looked like he would have been out of bounds anyway. Like one of his feet would have been out of bounds. And then there's 50 seconds left. They have two timeouts, but they're all the way backed up. They took a encroachment penalty that cost them, and the Eagles were able to hold on to win. Big surprise for me, but you got to give Nick Foles some credit. He managed the game well, and he made enough plays on offense. They were able to get some field goals. He went for it on fourth and goal, which got them the touchdown. And the Eagles were able to win that game. So you got to give Foles some credit. And this game, I think, had Carson Wentz played this game, I think the Eagles, this game would have been a little bit more lopsided. But Nick Foles, he was the last time the Eagles were in the playoffs, he was the quarterback against the New Orleans Saints, and then he was traded soon after to the St. Louis Rams. But now he's back on the Eagles, and the Eagles are in the NFC Championship game where they will host it. I'll talk about their opponent in a minute. Moving on to the Titans-Patriots game, this game went the way I expected. This was the only prediction this round that I got correct. Tom Brady dominated again. I mean, Dion Lewis, James White made a couple big touchdowns. I was on my Twitter feed, and it was just like reps are helping out the Patriots, but I never expected it. Even with that, I didn't expect the Titans to win. Dominated, made a couple, they were able to make big plays. The defense, I think, got 7 sacks, and Mariota actually started off this game. They were up 7-0, but after that, it just didn't go well for them, and the Patriots won 35-14. They're going to be hosting the AFC Championship game next week against the winner of the Jaguars-Steelers game that I'm about to get into, and, I picked the Steelers to win, but in my last video, I said that out of any game that this was going to be an upset, this was the game. And looking at it, the Steelers, I think, highly underestimated the Jaguars. Everybody just kept saying, this is not going to be like week 5. Blake Bortles, look what he did against Buffalo. It's going to be a blowout, and, the Steelers are going to get their revenge against the Patriots. Nope. That did not happen. Blake Bortles, give the guy some credit. He didn't have an amazing game, but he managed the game. He made the right throws. Here was the difference in this game between both quarterbacks. Roethlisberger threw over 400 yards and threw a couple touchdown passes, but he turned the ball over twice. He's had 7 turnovers against the Jaguars in 2 games this season. That was the difference in this game. Blake Bortles didn't turn the ball over. They had a great running game with Leonard Fournette. TJ Yeldon to a lesser extent. Despite having a great second half, every time because the Steelers got within a touchdown a couple times, Blake Bortles answered. He had a great drive, and they made big plays. And that was the difference in this game. Jacksonville, defensively, they probably want to work on some things, but that was the difference in this game, was Blake Bortles didn't make any mistakes, and the Steelers did. And then obviously that questionable play call by Mike Tomlin with a couple minutes left, and you have 2 timeouts left. Why don't you kick the ball deep? And they onside kick it. Mike Tomlin's only had 1 successful onside kick as a Steelers coach, and that put them into Steeler territory. But Blake Bortles got 9 yards. They made him use all their timeouts, and they were able to kick a field goal to put them up with two possessions, and that was the game right there. And just everybody just thought that this game went, and I didn't necessarily think that, even though I picked Pittsburgh. Everybody thought the Steelers were just expecting this to be a walk-in, and that was not the case. And Mike Tomlin's going to be hearing, and the rest of the Steelers players and everybody on that team, from coaching to players. I mean, Todd Haley, those 4th and 1, the ones that they didn't get, the sweep run or the play action pass that led to points for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, it's just, I don't know how you could. They're going to be hearing that all off season, and just I saw Jacksonville's Twitter account where it's like, oh, they were expecting a rematch. You can play the rematch on Madden all off season. That was some heavy shade right there that they just threw. But Jacksonville upsets the Steelers, and they're going to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots next week. So. And finally, I'm moving on to my Saints-Vikings game, the last game of the divisional round. Jaw dropped on the floor after the end of this game. So the Vikings, Drew Brees had a horrible first half. And the Vikings, they got a couple turnovers. And they were able to, Case Keenum had a really good half. And, just was doing very well. And then Drew Brees, they got on the board, I think, in the late 3rd quarter, early 4th quarter. They got a turnover, got a touchdown. They were able to get a field, I think it was a 6-point lead when the Vikings punted the ball and it was blocked. The Saints went up the field and scored a touchdown. Michael Thomas had a big game, but there was a little bit of controversy between him and the cornerback for the Vikings, Xavier Rhodes, after Sendejo, the safety for the Vikings, went out. And I remember reading, it's like, oh great, it's Bountygate again. But just everybody was he had a huge game, and I think there was a few minutes left, and the Vikings went down the field. Adam Thielen had a big catch, and they were able to get in field goal range, and it was 53 yards. And everybody, even the commentators, brought up, I think there was like a minute and a half left. Everybody was bringing up the Vikings past playoff field goal woes. The Gary Anderson kick from 1998, the Blair Walsh missed field goal from a couple years ago. Everybody was just bringing that up. He was able to hit the 53-yard field goal. Game wasn't over, but it was a huge field goal to make, and they were able to finally make a clutch field goal. Drew Brees had a 4th and 10 on that drive. He was able to get into field goal range, and they were able to kick that field goal. And, I was thinking 25 seconds left, timeout. And it was a 3rd and 10 with, I think, about 10 seconds left. And you're thinking, for the Vikings, the only way, it's not Hail Mary, but you have one more play, and you better hope you get out of bounds to get in field goal range. Well, Case Keenum threw it up, and Stephon Diggs makes an incredible catch. Meanwhile, as the throw's being made, Marcus Williams, who's had a great year from a rookie year, and had a pretty big game up until this point, misses the tackle. I don't know what he was doing, and Stephon Diggs landed. Initially, when he landed and pivoted, he took out another Saints defender when he collided or when he fell on the ground. Diggs, I was thinking to myself, why are you going for the end zone? But he saw an open room and he took it all the way to the house as the game expired, as the game time expired, and we saw a walk-off touchdowns being called the Minneapolis Miracle, and Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs, came up with some magic, and the Vikings, who've had so many playoff, heartbreaks over the years, they got a little bit, they got a miracle. They got one yesterday, and they were able to win 29-14. There was a great game moment at the when they had to go out and kick the extra point according to the rules, and Case Keenum was leading the Skull Vikings chant for the Vikings fans, and just what an unbelievable game. And what an unbelievable weekend of games. I mean, the playoffs last year were so bad up until the Super Bowl. There was literally, I think the Cowboys and Packers game was the only game that was somewhat exciting. Everything else was a bore fest, blowouts, and just badly played games. It was bad, but we've had a great playoff. We've been having some great playoff games, and it's going to continue. So hopefully we see some great championship games. Before I move into my conference championship predictions and my analysis of those games, there was some NFL news that's happened. There's been a lot of coaches searches going on right now. Matt Mularkey, Titans coach, looked like he was going to get extended, but it was announced today that he was fired at the Titans. And I think the Titans are currently looking at Mike Vrabel, the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, is looking like he's expected to be hired by the New York Giants. Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator for the Patriots, is looking like he's going to be going to the Indianapolis Colts. And Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator for the Patriots, is looking like he's going to be hired by the Detroit Lions. So a lot of coaching news going on, and it's kind of a lot of teams are looking for their looking at those coordinators for those teams. So we'll see what happens there. So now I'm going to be going into my conference championship predictions. So Jacksonville and New England, I feel like if Blake Bortles does the things that he did against Pittsburgh and he doesn't make the mistakes and Jacksonville is able to get a couple turnovers, then I think that the Jaguars are going to win. But the difficulty playing against Foxborough, and despite all the stuff that's going on with the Patriots right now, from the front office to Brady and whatever that stuff's going on, I just think the Patriots, even though experience didn't matter in the divisional round, I expect a close game, but I think the Pats are just going to edge out the Jaguars to get to back-to-back Super Bowls. But I was wrong last week, so maybe I'm just jinxing the Patriots. But I think experience is going to matter in this game, and I think Tom Brady is going to pull it off. And then we got an interesting Vikings-Eagles game. If you told me at the beginning of the season that the NFC, and we can put the Jaguars into this, that the three of the last four quarterbacks in the playoffs at this point the names were going to be Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and Blake Bortles, I would have looked at you funny and asked, what are you smoking? Because this is just out of nowhere. And I think it's good for football. I think the lack of, the same teams every year, it's bad for football. We need variety, We're seeing it in Major League Baseball. I think the NBA is suffering for it as well, with seeing the Warriors and the Cavaliers in the NBA Finals every year. So it's ridiculous, but I think this is good for football. So that being said, the Vikings-Eagles, I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be low scoring because of the weather. I think the Vikings, they're going to have momentum after winning that game. What I don't want to see, because I've seen this before. I remember 2 years ago, the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald made that incredible play. The Cardinals had that huge win against the Packers in the divisional round, and then they went to Carolina and just got blown out in the NFC Championship game. I don't think we're going to see it with the Vikings, but that they have to ground themselves a little bit if you're the Vikings. I think personally, despite I like the run game a little bit more from the Eagles, I think both defenses are great. I just think the Vikings defense is a little bit better. I think the receivers are better, despite I think having the Eagles have a better running tandem with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount. I think that Latavius Murray and Jeremy McKinnon's not bad. I think that just they have a little bit more weapons with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, Jarius Wright, those guys, and Kyle Rudolph. I think there's, despite the Eagles having like Zach Ertz and, Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar and those guys, I think that the Vikings just have a weapon or two more on offense. And I like Case Keenum had a bigger game against versus Nick Foles, despite not having a bad game. I like the Vikings a little bit more in this, but it could go either ways, as with the Jags Patriots game. So that's it for my NFL news. I'm going to end the podcast. So there were a couple big. I haven't talked about other sports in a while, but there was a huge. As I was about to record this podcast, it was announced that the Pittsburgh Pirates made some big moves. They moved Garrett Cole to the Astros, their former All-Star pitcher, and it was just announced that the San Francisco Giants, who had been looking at guys like J.D. Martinez and Jay Bruce to improve their outfield, well, it looks like they're going to get their outfield improvement as the Giants acquired Andrew McCutchen, five-time All-Star and former 2013 MVP of the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're going to acquire him, so they looked for their outfielders. And Pirates making, I guess they're selling a lot of their big players. So, but it is what it is. So that's it for my podcast this week. Thanks everybody for watching. Tune in this Sunday as I will be doing another GNR Central podcast. I'm not sure which time that is. I'm thinking you're doing a podcast the same day as the conference championship games. I'll do both at the same time, but it's whatever. You're probably not going to see you'll probably see my Super Bowl prediction the week of the Super Bowl, so you're probably not going to see a video from me next week. But you're going to get one, don't worry. But thanks everybody for watching. Follow me on Twitter at BaileyLeasure96. If you like the video, click like. If you like the content on my channel, please subscribe. And comment in the comment section below what your thoughts about the divisional games and just wow factor that it brought to everybody watching. So leave the comments below. Thank you, and I will see you all in 2 weeks for my Super Bowl prediction. So, bye.